This is our part two of remembering the 80s. And now we're going to the late 80s into the 90s. All right, so what do you have for us, Sandra?
Okay, so where we left off last, we didn't discuss a lot of the movies. So the movies that helped shape me or that I was able to relate to were a lot of John Hughes movies. Uncle Buck, 16 Candles, Pretty in Pink. Those were the most relatable for me. John Hughes was best in capturing the teenage angst, the feelings of the awkwardness of, crushing so hard
Oh, yeah.
and not being able to confront your crush, or crushing so hard on someone it consumes your everyday,
Yes, it does.
and being absolutely vulnerable and exposing yourself to your crush or feeling, that you like someone. So his movies, to me, I was able to relate to the best.
All right, last time you mentioned John Hughes, but you didn't mention a John Hughes as one of your go to movies. So, which is one of your John Hughes movies that you like?
I believe there's gonna be three: the Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles, and Uncle Buck.
All right, Uncle Buck is actually one of my favorites and my kids' favorite because we put that on over and over till this day, Mr. Uncle Buck.
Because I think we all had like a Theo that we liked, or that would come in, and you got away with certain things, or you listened to him. Maybe the message was the same that your parents were trying to tell you, but when it was delivered from this Theo, it was a little different, and it hit you a little different, and you were more susceptible to listen to
Yeah.
whatever lesson that was given. So it's relatable, still relatable. Having younger sister, 7 years younger than me, I could relate. 16 Candles and Pretty in Pink, um, those were just about, you know, having a relationship with someone, and are your worlds gonna collide, or are his friends gonna like you, or your friends gonna like him? Do you come from different worlds? Is he a richie? Are you poor?
Yeah,
Things like that.
exactly.
So it those were my favorite John Hughes
Now, what
movies.
was the name of the character of the, I think it was 16 Candles, of the
hmm
guy that Molly Ringwald liked?
16 Candles. His name was Jake Ryan.
And what is our nephew's name?
His name is Jake Ryan.
Yes.
So yeah, see, it's very influential. And you can say to anybody in our generation, especially with 16 Candles, Jake Ryan, or from Pretty in Pink, Blaine, um, or Ducky,
Ducky.
yeah, or Otis
Yes.
Redding, just different things. I was telling my 22-year-old daughter that there are so many iconic different scenes from these movies, and quotable things from these movies that
Oh,
people
yes.
will you'll eventually hear after she's seen them. You'll hear them after that. So those, yes, I think John Hughes was excellent at capturing the teenager feelings, definitely.
Wow. All right, I'm going to mention some movies and just say yes or no if
Okay.
they actually, like you remember them.
Okay.
All right, so we got 1980 was Empire Strikes Back. Were
Uh,
you a fan of the Star Wars at that time?
um, I personally wasn't a fan, but again, I hung around my cousins a lot, so I was a fan by default.
All right, what about E.T.?
Yes, was a fan.
How about Ghostbusters?
Yes.
I think this was the original Ghostbusters.
Yes, yes, I love that one. I love all the characters in it.
Yeah, and then next one was Back to the Future, which is the first one that came out.
That one was good. I remember what's his name? What's the actor's name? Michael J. Fox.
There you
He was
go.
he was big during that time. So yes, that was a good one.
And then the next one in 1986 was Top Gun, which made Tom Cruise, well, it was one of the movies they made him a star, really.
Yes, I loved Top Gun. That was a good one too, because I would come from a military family, so of course also men in uniform are very attractive, and that whole, mysterious, bad boy guy. But now I know about him, and kind of ruined it for me. But anyway, but yeah, back then it was really good.
Scientology.
Yes.
All right. Next we got, which is 1989 towards the end, was Batman, starring Michael Keaton, which is, I think, till this day, a lot of people relate this one as the best Batman of all time.
I like that one. I wasn't a superheroes person. I was by default because of my cousins, and I liked it. It was that one was good.
All right. So, if any of those movies, that anyone stand out to you that you have memories of those movies?
Um, Not though any of those particular ones. The ones that stand out for me in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s was the vacation movies.
That's
I
with the Griswolds, right?
Yes, and anything with John Candy, like Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I was a big John Candy fan, and the Griswolds. Yes, that was those were fun because I saw them with my family, and my dad, and I remember my dad, and that was one of the things that we bonded over is those movies, and we loved those
Yes, the
movies.
comedy
Yes,
ones.
the comedies, and so that was really good. Yes.
Now, the Plane, Trains, and Automobiles, that's my Thanksgiving movie that we put on every year is down. Because there really is no Thanksgiving movie out there.
No, but it's just funny every time, and like even though you know what's gonna happen, it makes you laugh. Like it makes you laugh just reliving those things with those characters. It just makes you. It's a funny movie. It to me, it's timeless.
Yes, because when we see those movies again, like at this time, where is it 2025?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one of the things they have is the newspaper.
Right.
And then the telephone, where they got to make the arrangement. There's a big line at the airport for telephone,
Right.
everybody to use it. So that's just some things that we don't even have at this time anymore.
The struggle was real. Yes, and you think back, if I was in that situation today, you could still be in that same situation. Maybe the cell phone, the communication would be a little easier, but those problems still exist today with the car rental and the flights, canceling and the weather. Those are still real relatable problems. So that's what I think makes it timeless.
One of the movies that stands out to me is Back to the Future, because we were living in Dover, Delaware,
Hmm.
and there really it was a small town. It wasn't developed as it is now, and we went to the movies. But this time, usually we go to the base for movies. But since this was a major movie coming out, we actually went to a theater, like a Santiago's that is
Yeah,
now.
yeah.
So we went there, and it was actually two levels. So we were on the second level, which was awesome because we were at the end,
Hmm.
at, well, I guess the first one up there, and we could see down, and and then we could actually see the movie real good. But it was different for me because this was a full theater that I really haven't been, and really it wasn't that big. But when I was little, it was.
Right, right.
But I remember that movie. I remember like it was just we were eating popcorn and sodas. I'm like, oh my god, this is so great.
Yeah, yeah.
And leaving there, I remember leaving the theater. We're talking about it, how funny it was, and all that. So that's actually one of the memories that I still have is that Back to the Future movies. Is that
Yeah, that one was really good. I'm trying to think. I love watching movies in theaters. There's nothing like it, but I'm trying to. I Again, my memories keep going back to just those vacation movies. Those were the most fun because again, I remember, just again, that's something that my dad enjoyed too. So we would all go as a family. So that was really fun. Yeah.
and those are the movies because I show my kids those movies and we watch Christmas Vacation every year for Christmas.
Yes.
But you got to pay attention to the details.
Yes.
Every little thing that's going on in the movie, even in the background, is significant because something's happening there.
Right.
And it just like in the Christmas Vacation,
Yes.
where I think Griswold, the main guy, is with Eddie, I think,
Yeah.
and they're shopping, right? And they have the cart. I think they're at Walmart. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
You're talking about that dog
Yes,
food,
the dog food.
and how much dog food did they put in that cart?
That's one of the jokes. Like that's a subtle joke that there's subtleties, and you're right. You have to pay attention because they're talking about he can't give his kids Christmas. Eddie can't give his kids Christmas because whatever, and he's loading dog food on top and dog food on top of this basket. And so, of course, Clark is like, Eddie, let me do this for you. I'll loan you whatever, money, whatever. And so they're walking through the store, and he's in his leisure suit,
Yes.
and so then So he tells Clark, well, why don't you get you something real nice too?
Yeah. He
Because,
was like,
you're lending me money. So it's just a back and forth and what's going on. And, he doesn't have money, but he's piling on this dog food. He's just taking advantage. It is. There's a lot of subtleties that make that
yes.
whole scene.
Now, did you ever, during that part, did you ever notice the light bulbs?
No, I didn't know. What are you talking about, light bulbs?
Okay, so during that time, they're putting those 40-pound bags of dog food in
Uh-huh,
there.
uh-huh.
Then Clark gets, oh, it looks light bulbs. I need them. He puts them in there, and then Eddie throws another 40-pound bag on there, and those light bulbs are crushed. And those are those subtleties that are in there that are
Well,
so funny.
that I have not seen it to this day, and I've seen that movie all the time during Christmas, and that's something I need to look for next time.
Yes,
That's funny.
but no, those were good. That was a good one. That's yes.
The most quoted for me, I think that's the most quoted movie, Christmas movie for me at least, and also too. I think at one point I wanted to learn his rant at toward the end, where he's like he ends it,
Yes.
holy shit, like hallelujah, holy shit. That was amazing. Love that one.
Now I seen I think recently where they for Christmas they dressed as the characters from the Christmas Vacation at their Christmas party. You know how people have like pajamas and
Oh,
stuff like
yes,
that?
yes, yes.
They all dressed as a character. And some were Eddie, some were Clark and all them.
Interesting. That's a fun thing.
They
I,
even had the old man with the hat, the
yes,
uncle, whatever it was.
yes, the one with the hair. You
Yes.
can have the one with the red, the green, the one that hiccups and she has the glass of like martini or something.
Yes.
Yeah, that is. I didn't even think about that. That's pretty cool.
And there were different characters of Eddie. Of course, you had the leisure shoot. Then you have him and then the outside,
The shitter's
the
full.
shitter full. Yes. So they had them all different, costumes of what he
Yeah,
was.
different types, different when he's different things in the movie. Yes,
Yes.
that's pretty fun. I didn't even think about that, but that's pretty fun. The thing also of these movies too, I spoke about the John Hughes movies, was not only were the movies iconic, but the soundtracks to these movies, especially Pretty in Pink, 16 Candles. Those soundtracks, I still listen to that music. That was the music I was listening to when I was in Houston. I grew up in Houston. And so a lot of my music influence in Houston was New Wave, the Smiths, The Cure, Joy Division, Echo and the Bunnymen, Book of Love.
Book of
And
Love,
yeah, and the
yes.
rap, the Beastie Boys, Slick Rick, LL Cool J, Salt and Pepper. Um, and so that was the music I was listening. Pop music was like Lisa and the Cult Jam, Tears for Fears, Susie Q, Force MDs. So at the end of '89, that's when I moved to San Antonio, and so that's when I was still a little in high school, into my high school career or my high school life, and so when I moved to Houston, my world got kind of like turned upside down with music because in San Antonio they're listening to freestyle music.
Yes.
And
You
I was
can't go
like,
wrong with
what
freestyle.
the F is this? So
Wait,
I'm
wait.
used to
But Houston was more of hip hop and R&B, right?
hip hop, R&B, new wave.
Yes.
That was what I was all about. Hip hop and new wave, and some of the pop stuff. We had Astroworld. We would get dropped off at Astroworld, at noon and get picked up at 10, 11 o'clock. They had a little club in there that would have dance music, and I would go to concerts there, So, I mean, that was Astroworld was my social hub and for music as well too.
Okay, hang on. Let's hit something real quick.
Yeah.
You said you got dropped off at 12 at Astroworld
Yeah.
and then picked up around what,
10.
10 when it's closing? Yes,
Yes.
because I remember that because I spent a summer in Houston one time and
Yes.
I remember Thea dropping us off at Astroworld and yes, being picked up. And I had a few bucks in my pocket. So I think I had like $4, $6.
Yeah.
So I had to make that last. And that include dinner, drinks, whatever it was,
Whatever.
thirsty it was, and
Yes.
whatever activity we had. So, but yeah, I remember that. And I remember with my cousins, of course, Reese, and I go, you know what? I'm going to branch off and go walk somewhere else. And I did. I just walked around the park. But nowadays, I mean, even those days, you really shouldn't have done that
No, but
because there was
everybody's
always those
parents.
serial killers back then.
Well, yes, but everybody's parents did it. That's what we did. There was the mall. You got dropped off at the mall. You got dropped off at Astroworld. And that's those were the social hubs back then. And yes, nowadays you're talking about leaving a kid there for 8, 9, 10 hours outside with
Yes.
like that. No, like that's a negative. Like we're not doing that. Like there's so many things like that's idle time for teenagers. But it was a different era. I don't know how or why it worked, but it just worked. It just worked. And that's what our weekends were. That's what are we going to do? Are we going to we're going to go to the mall? Are we going to whatever? And it's not like, kids terrorized the mall or like just I don't know, it was just different.
Yeah, it was different
It was
because
different.
we were able to be ourselves. There was no parents there. There was no
Yeah.
parents to say, "No, don't go there.
Yes.
Don't talk to this person."
Yes.
Yes, that guy has candy, but don't go there.
Yeah.
We were like, "Well, I only have $4. I'm
Yeah.
going to take the candy,
Right.
or the soda because I am thirsty. I'm hungry."
I remember we had season passes, so it just I don't know how we did. We didn't eat, meals like it was just snacking and drinks. Like we did with what we had what we had on us, and that was it. That was it, and we had fun, and it was again emphasis on the socializing. You went there to socialize. I mean, God, I remember, and we didn't go in there in like in baseball caps and t-shirts and shorts and tennis shoes. We were there in mini skirts and just a shirt, sandals or jellies or whatever. Like we weren't going for comfort. I mean, we weren't going for like to be
Yeah,
practical. We went
exactly.
there to be seen and to socialize. So we were not dressed up, but we were fashionable. I remember. Yeah, at Astroworld. Like I remember that was crazy because I thinking back, man, I was stupid, but I mean, it worked for us. It worked for us during that time.
But also at the same time is that I mentioned the food and drinks and all that, but it really didn't even phase us.
No.
Like we were thirsty. They had water fountains.
Yes.
Of course, we had COVID and all that, but that
That,
didn't matter back
no.
then.
We drank out of the
Our
manguera back
immune
then.
system was
Yes.
strong.
Yes. Like it was nothing. We would drink out of the manguera if we needed to. It was no big deal. Like it was just, again, it was more to be with our friends. We had freedom to be with our friends and whoever else was there. So that was amazing. That was definitely the time. So yes, and then again, coming into San Antonio, the early, late 80s, early 90s, that was again, I got introduced to this freestyle, Johnny O, Cynthia, the Debbie Deb,
Trinier.
Trinier, Expose,
Yes,
Sweet
all of those were
Sensation.
good. Freestyles were good.
So yeah, so that was a whole different. Like there was still my new wave stuff. There was still some hip hop stuff. My cousins had. That was with the time with the bass and all that stuff. So it was different kind of hip hop, um, but the new wave is what consumed. My early '90s. Then
Now,
all.
when I was in high school, we were still listening to a lot of new wave. We were listening to the Morrissey, like in the Smiths, like you said, and all
Mhm.
that. So
Yep.
that was still going on in San Antonio.
Yes.
But a lot of
Yes.
yes, you're right. A lot of the freestyle. But to
Yes.
this day, the most listened to when you go to 80s thing is freestyle
Freestyle.
out there.
Yes. Freestyle.
So you're welcome that we introduce you to
Yeah,
freestyle.
so thank you very much. And also during that time, we have to remember which I love this genre. Well, I love this genre, and I know you like some of the music too. Is the grunge? The grunge came out in the '90s.
Oh my God, that's all I listen to
Nirvana,
now.
Creed, STP, Soundgarden, Smashing Pumpkins. I mean, so yes, like STP and Soundgarden and Nirvana were my biggest ones, and there was also the Faith No More, Sonic Youth, all those other ones. But yeah, like I remember going to concerts for STP and Nirvana. Oh my God. So yeah, that was those grunge, and then the grunge attire.
The
That was
grunge attire.
the flannels and the baggy jeans and the that kind of that's when you had those people that
Yes.
they really didn't it was a look of like you don't care really, like just whatever.
Now, in the 90s, I graduated from high school in 1990.
Mhm.
So I was adulting
You
at
were
that time.
adult. Yeah.
So while you all were having fun in high school, I was living, working, and living, working hard to live my life and to be independent at that time.
Well, that time also, that's when the World Wide Web came out.
Hmm.
So we had the internet, right? The introduction of the internet and on the computers. Um, and we had the AOL. Let's talk about the AOL dial up. I mean, geez.
That was not even DSL.
That
That was
was
just basic dial up.
that was your connecting. First of all, at the beginning, you collected as many of those free trial AOLs as you could because it allowed you what, minutes or something,
I
or
think so. I don't know. I'm not too sure,
I
but yeah.
can't remember what it was, but you put them on and then you see the little guy running from one thing to another,
Yes.
and you hear that, that screeching noise. And the whole time, because it was through the phone lines, nobody could pick up your phone line. You had your mom picking up, forget it. You had to start all over.
Yep.
Anybody pick up the phone, it's forget it. You had to start all over. And so that was the message, those message rooms, or those, what do you call those rooms?
Chat rooms?
Chat rooms.
Yes.
Yes. Chat rooms. That was the first, time where that's where, it could be argued that online dating maybe started there because you would meet people and, you're not in real life, you're like, oh, we're going to be hanging out there. So if you had ventured off, and like, hey, we're going to be over here, you would meet people that you met in a chat room. You never knew who they were, so that was also a kind of like a, like a uh-oh. So I don't know.
So
Did you
that
ever
was
hang out in chat rooms or
no,
anything?
no, no. I was again. I was too busy.
Adulting.
Rather messing with chat rooms, and plus, I didn't want to be taken by a serial killer or abducted or anything. So I kind of stayed away with that because that's when the child predators really took over on those chat
You
rooms.
know what? That's right, right? That
Yep.
is correct.
That's where you had John Stoggle, whatever it
Oh,
was.
John, yeah,
Whatever his
the
name
To
is.
Catch a Predator.
Yes.
Oh my God, you're absolutely correct.
And that's where he got famous from those things there.
Yeah, that is true. See, that's where all that crap was born. Oh my God. So, okay, what about now? This was big in the late 80s and 90s. Blockbuster. That was
Yes.
a weekend ritual.
Okay, now when did you start going to Blockbuster? Was it VHS or before VHS? Beta tapes?
Oh my God.
Because we
No,
did the beta tapes first before we even got to the VHS.
I think I did VHS because we only had a VHS player growing up. So we didn't have a beta. That beta was like for like people who were like in the know or like rich because we're like, I don't know if that beta is going to last. Like, I don't know. But we only had VHS tapes.
Now, when I know my dad got a beta. I think he got it from his brother.
Hmm.
I'm not sure how he got it, but he got a
Yeah.
beta. And we went to a block. Actually, it wasn't Blockbuster. It was Pop
Pop
and
and
Go.
go.
Pop and Go, the Penguin, right, or something.
Yes.
And we went there and we were looking for these. And I think the tapes were a little bit higher than they were for
Yes.
like $30 or $20 to
Yes.
rent.
Oh
At
my
that time
God.
in the 90s, like that was a lot, right?
Yes.
So we got a beta tape. Now, if you lost the tape or you broke the tape, you would have to pay $100 and something dollars.
Damn.
That was no late fee. It was like you had to pay the whole thing.
See, that's a rich
So
man's
we had to
game.
make sure we took care of that.
That was a
And it
rich
was
man's
crazy because the movies we didn't see the movies because once you're in the movies you had to wait about 3 to 5 years before it came out in television.
game. Right, right.
So, but just to go there and see it, which was pretty awesome. Not that the way it is now, just wait 2 weeks and half the movies are already on
Yes.
your streaming
Yes.
service.
True. But no, but Blockbuster was a ritual that I enjoyed because it was the excitement of seeing if your movie was there. And if it wasn't, then what would you do? Hang out at the front desk and wait for people to drop in. And you'd ask the guy, what was that just dropped? Or, just hoping it was yours that you wanted. And what's cool about it is that, the ritual continued with my kids. When my dad would go, he would take my little ones and they
Yep.
would come back, of course, with the popcorn and the candy and, whatever.
All the snacks.
All the snacks and either a game or one of their movies, so that was really cool.
Now, did you ever have to wait, like you said about for the people come in, like you wait at the box, but was there a certain time you would wait for them, like when they come like at 8 o'clock or 9, whatever the cutoff period was?
Yes, obviously you'd come around that time because if your movie wasn't there, then you wanted to, you had a better chance of hanging out in the front and annoying the people that work there to see, if it came back or not, because they would scan it, then they would like put it right there where you could see. So you're just like waiting there. But yeah,
Yes.
so yeah, you went around the deadline times. That way you can, if it wasn't there, then you have a chance of maybe catching it on the return.
Now, did you ever figure out what was the best day to go for the new releases back for Blockbuster?
Um, no, I don't remember.
The day was always Tuesday.
Was it?
Yeah, because it's always a new release Tuesday for movies and sometimes musics. So
Oh,
that's why I would go on a Tuesday when it comes out,
uh-huh.
but I didn't realize this, so I started working for Target. And so that when I realized that, then I'll go for Tuesday. The new movies come out. I'll go during lunch, pick them up, come home. We would watch them, and then of course bring them back. So we got ahead of time.
Yeah.
So that way Friday it was just whatever movies were
You
there.
want it, yeah.
But we already saw the new movie from there.
That's true. Y'all were smart.
But back then it was just a 1 day rental. So you
Yeah.
had 1 day to rent it, but then they went to 2, and then eventually up to 3 days,
Right, right. Yes.
which that
One
was
day.
helpful.
Yeah, 1 day. You had 1 day, and that's why you didn't rent a lot of them because you only had 1 day. So it was one or two movies, and that was it because you had to see both of them or, that one movie. But yeah, that was pretty fun. It was it was definitely an excitement. It was a definitely a family ritual that that you would do. So that was fun times also. At Blockbuster, that you could do is also rent games. And so I remember my cousins playing Mortal Kombat, and the thing that always has stuck with me is finish him. The whole, the
Yes.
Scorpion and Sub Zero, and I guess the final move would be finish him. And so I remember also renting games from there as well. Um, but yeah, so it was just games and movies, I believe, right? That was the only thing.
Yes, I think that was pretty much it. But games came later, right?
Later,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
Games
later on
came
that.
later for sure.
Now, when Blockbuster started ending, did it affect you in a way like, oh man, like we're not gonna be able to do that much anymore because then it went to red boxes, right?
Well, yes. So I think one of the reasons why Blockbuster kind of, took a hit is because the Redbox was coming out, and Netflix was, I think, the where you can order the movies or something like that. So the Red Boxes were a very good substitute for all that. It was quick. You didn't have to go into a store. You just went to a kiosk. You used your card. They even had the apps
Yes.
later. But yeah, but back then, yeah, it was a little bit more user friendly.
But you know what? I think it was Netflix first. Because
Netflix, yeah,
Netflix, you could just rent a movie on like through the mail,
through the mail.
and then they'll send it to you, and then you send it back
And
to
you
them.
send it, they would send you like a self posted or
Yes.
a post where you just drop it in the mail. It made it that much easier.
Yep. And then it went to the red
Later, it went
boxes.
to the red boxes,
And
right?
then of course Netflix as it is now is a whole streaming service.
Yes. So yes, the winner out of that one was definitely Netflix.
Yes, you're right.
Unfortunately, yes, but yes, it was Blockbuster. It was good while it lasted, but it's just changing of the times. Like it's just it was it fell out because it wasn't changing with the times. If it was now went to a streaming, then it'd be different. Like if they're like, okay, no more brick and mortar, we're gonna do online, that'd be a little different. But I don't think their business model is set up that way. So
Yeah, because even when you took your kids, some people have kids like, they just don't want to be with us. They don't want to, they go in the room all the time. But then they will get those kids out to
yes,
go get a movie,
to go pick
to go
movies.
watch those movies. Because again, theater, then you had to wait years. And then these movies, so then the kid probably did want to come out of that room and watch those movies with the family.
True.
And that was always good. I mean, Blockbuster brought families out together
Yes,
and
that
spend
was.
time, in the car, going over there, talking about
Mm-hmm.
the movies, and then being excited that you got the movie and you went back. And so
Mm-hmm.
Blockbuster was really good with them.
Yes, I definitely agree. I definitely agree. And so also with the emergence of the what is it, the Netflix, they eventually went to when the CDs came out, in the 90s. CDs were a big thing. And so we now have um these CDs that come out, and everybody was afraid to put fingerprints on it and be careful
Yes.
to scratch it. It was like very delicate. little did we know, it wasn't so delicate and it's okay. But, you went from Walkmans to Discman, and then the Discman you was not very like it wasn't really a realistic thing because you would jump and scratch the CD because it would move around, and it was a very delicate, I guess, thing, to play the CDs.
Yeah, because any type of movement or jump, or even if you're in a car, a bump would cause that to skip.
Yes, yes. So that was the whole thing. But CDs, the cool thing about CDs is that you can continue your mixtape type CD because you could put your different songs on there, different songs and stuff like that. So that was pretty cool that you can create your own CD mixes as well. So that was nice. And of course, the movies transitioned to the CDs from the VHS tapes. And so that was really good as well.
Now, in order to get a mix CD, you would need music that was downloaded because you couldn't really get it off the radio anymore. So where did you have to go to get those music?
Well, from your computer. um, there were streaming services like I'm not streaming services, but there was music sharing services.
Yes.
I'm not particular. I know there was Napster, and then there was LimeWire. I don't know which
Yeah, I think
ones were
LimeWire was,
free
yes.
or not free, but there was some services where they were sharing music and you could get it for free. I don't know about that because I never did it, but
Yeah,
I
you did.
no, I
Everybody did it. Napster, oh my God, that was like music thing, like it was free.
right. So that's where you would get your music and you could burn it onto your CD, like on from your computer. So that's how you'd be able to make your mix.
But it wasn't that easy though. You had
No,
to
it was
be
a process.
yes, you had to be a programmer because again, you had to download. First, how long did it take to download the music from there?
There should tell you, I'm not a programmer, I'm not that computer savvy to be able to figure those things out. So it had to be something simple. I don't know.
Wait. Did you ever download music from Napster or anything like that?
No, I honestly
Really?
didn't. No, that's what I'm telling you. Nope.
Wow. Okay. So this is the process. Okay. So you go to Napster, right? And you look for music.
Mm-hmm.
Now it only depends if somebody had it in their
Like
hard
folder
drive,
or
right, like on their computer.
okay.
All right. So then you would grab that music from their computer to yours and you would download it on yours. Now, so what you would do is you would download it, but this is more when DSL came up. All
Mm-hmm.
right. So, but it still took anywhere from, I would say 30 minutes, up to 30 minutes
For one song?
for one song. So it took a while. All right. Now it could have been 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but I think it was up to 30 minutes. Okay. And then you had to download your next song from there. Then once it's downloaded, you go to this other service and it turns into what I think was an MP3 back then
Uh-huh.
or a WAV file, whatever it was. And then you were able to, again, to a different thing to put it on a CD and you get all those songs the way you wanted to. But there was a process to it. And of course, each song took a long time to do that.
Okay, so I must have come into this particular process later where it was maybe streamlined a little more because I know I didn't do all that. I somehow did would burn music onto CDs, but I know I didn't do that process. So maybe later when it
Yes.
got a little bit more easier,
Sophisticated.
yeah, because I don't remember that, but I just remembered that we could burn music on CDs and stuff like that. And I remember creating different CDs, but I didn't do it a lot. But that was the process. I know for sure, I know myself, that's too much time. I don't have patience for that.
That's too much time.
No. Mm-mm.
Yeah, because I was in my mid 20s and I moved to Houston
Yeah.
and I was making rock CDs.
Yeah.
Because we would do overnights and I'll
Mm-hmm.
put my CD on. Everybody liked it. Like, where did you get this CD from? I'm like, oh, I made it.
Mm-hmm.
So then I started making CDs for everybody because they like my music.
They liked your music.
And they go, hey, do you have a new one? And I'm like, yeah, I got a version 2. Like, okay. And they would hear it. So every time new music would come along,
Yeah.
I would burn a CD, would put it overnight. They're like, I want that CD. I want that CD.
Yeah.
So with me, they were able to get those for free. I did all the work for them. But yeah, it was good to download because again, this was more of the grunge music in the 90s
Yeah.
with that. So that was even better because there were so many artists, so many songs, and then even these artists would create another band or jump to
Yes.
another band
Yes.
from that. They have multiple things, multiple projects they're working on. So that was good to even just go to the history, because the history of grunge music is still something to go through anyway.
Yes.
But
No.
yeah, CDs were great. CDs were good.
Yes. And I remember, because I remember having my car, because I was a senior in high school and I had a car. And so I remember some of the CDs I would create or whatever, and I would put them in my car, and that's the music that I would listen to. So, but yeah, that's CDs were definitely. It was still a way to also create CDs for other people that you liked or wanted, or hey, you're like this one person. This is the music that reminds me of you. You still had that nostalgia feeling for like mixtapes. You were able to make
Yes, that's
mix
true. Yeah, you're
CDs
right. Yeah.
for sure. Yes.
Now, which was your go-to CD that you would have, or what was one of your favorite CDs back in the day there?
Oh gosh, back in okay, so I'm not sure when this CD came out, but I know in the 90s, it may have been late after I graduated, but Alanis Morissette's Jagged Little Pill,
Oh, wow.
that
Okay.
CD I could listen to back to front and sing, every song. Like that was a good CD that I absolutely loved. I absolutely loved also Yaz Midnight. That was probably the
Oh
late
my
80s.
gosh. Not many people knew about Yaz too
Yaz,
much. Was it
Yaz.
Yazoo or something
Well,
back
it
then?
was Yazoo, but then they cut it short to Yaz. So Midnight, Upstairs at Eric's, I'm sorry, is the name of the CD. Upstairs at Eric's. And that whole CD I absolutely love. Upstairs at
Yes. I
Eric's.
actually had that cassette.
Yeah.
I had the cassette of Yaz.
Upstairs at Eric's. And then, of course, New Order, um, and Depeche Mode. Like, God, all those CDs. Yeah.
All right. So you're going more into wave still, new wave stuff
Because, yeah,
and
I
pop,
love
that punk
that's.
music back then.
That's the heart of my early teenage soul.
So,
So
but so then is it grunge music, or is it still that new wave punk music back?
it's still a new way. For me, I love all kinds of music. I love all kinds of music, but for me, I love new wave music. I love Yaz and the New Order, Depeche Mode, the Smiths, Morrissey, Joy Division. I love all those.
Now, so Yaz, did you say Yaz is one of your go-to? Oh no, Alanis Morissette.
Yeah, Alanis Morissette. Yeah,
Alanis Morissette. Okay,
yeah,
so that's a CD you like to give you nostalgia. Okay, it would
yeah.
bring you back memories.
Right,
So,
right.
what memories would it bring you back to?
Gosh, it was after high school, in college, and just like dealing with just in relationships in general of just a different type of relationship, or just more serious, not so boy girl, crushing.
Yes.
It's more deeper love and things like that. But yeah, like it's just, and then being, just frustration, getting that one song with it's just you get the frustration out, things like that. Yeah, that was cool.
Now, for me, back in the '90s or mid '90s, was actually No Doubt. No Doubt for me is the the group CD that I would go back to and listen to all the time. Even to this day, when it comes on, like so many memories. Because this is actually when I moved from San Antonio to Houston.
Hmm.
So this all brought those memories coming back and forth from there. And actually, Garth Brooks too, one of the CDs there. And because I would drive back from Houston to San Antonio, I think daily for I think a week.
Oh my gosh.
So I would go to work. I would drive from San Antonio to Houston, go to work, and then drive back after work and all that because I was still looking for a place to live
Yeah.
in there. Then eventually, of course, I stayed at Diaz. But I would listen to Garth Brooks on the way over there, and then I would listen to No Doubt on the back. But then in Houston, had a lot of No Doubt. They would play that
Hmm.
a lot when and I lived there.
No, so if you're telling me about bringing back memories now, during my senior year, out of my senior year, when I moved my transition to from Houston to San Antonio, these songs will take me right back. So, In Excess, Never Tear Us Apart takes me right back
Oh my
to
gosh,
Bel Air
yes.
High School in Houston. Just crushing on someone, or someone had a crush on you, and just that feeling of just when you're a teenager, everything is heightened. Your feelings are heightened. It's like never tear us apart. Like it's just so much emotion, like that's where it all comes from. Those songs, that song, Bizarre Love Triangle, reminds me of one of my I went to prom my senior year, I mean my freshman year with the senior. Then my cousin also went to my same high school and was at that prom, and Bizarre Love Triangle. I remember dancing to that and being happy and seeing my cousin, and that was really cool. And just those songs, and then also again, like I said, Yaz, Midnight from Upstairs at Eric's. That song just reminds me of driving in the hills back by Ingram and Broadview, just back there. Um,
Now, wait,
yeah.
Okay. Never Tear Us Apart were late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
So they were late 80s.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was the last group you said right now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Was that early 90s or still late 80s?
That was late 80s too.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that
So I
was.
remember like that we're going back to 80s now.
Yeah, that was
But
late.
that was your
But that
transition.
was my transition over to Houston, yeah, to San Antonio, and then also, and these are just songs that will immediately take me back, um, like "Scrub the Ground" by DJ Laz. That song takes me right back to San Antonio, one of the little clubs that we were able to go to, underage clubs, that went in dancing. Because then, this was more of the Latino, the freestyle, that kind of music. So that kind of music takes me back to San Antonio, along with Johnny O and Cynthia. Those take me back to SeaWorld, because SeaWorld, they had concerts there.
Yes.
So I used to go to SeaWorld and see concerts there. So, and again, just having that freedom with my car, being a teenager, and doing all that stuff, that those songs take me back to a specific place.
Yeah, I could see that because living in Houston, again, this was the 90s.
Uh-huh.
I think, what was it? Linkin Park came out during
Mm-hmm.
that time, and I would listen to Linkin Park a lot back then. Of course, like you said, STP
Mm-hmm.
and Offspring. That was one of my ones I would listen to all the time. And so, but then again, I traveled, I think it was an hour to get to work, sometimes an hour and a half to get back from work. And that was still in Houston, which Houston
Yeah.
traffic is ridiculous.
Right.
So I would always listen to those. But then I didn't get to really do much concerts after high school because, again, you're working. If you're not working, you're taking care of your kids. You're with your kids,
Right.
So I was always with that. Of course, me and Dora, we were in Houston. We had our Thea, but we're still,
Mm-hmm.
nobody to really rely on.
Right.
So we would always, when the kids, it was listening to music, and we would go outside in the patio where we were, the apartments we at, and just, have some drinks and then listen to music. And then, of course, we do some movies. But yeah, concert, I wish I did a lot more,
Mm-hmm.
but, taking care of kids,
Yeah.
not really just taking care of kids, being with your kids,
Yeah. Being a
giving them
father.
their,
Yeah.
the good childhood,
Right.
that you couldn't really do all that stuff,
Right.
So, but but what about CDs going to, well, what was your favorite grunge CDs that you liked that really took you places from there?
Nirvana.
Nirvana. All right. Yes, I remember Nirvana.
Yeah.
Nirvana was good.
Nirvana. Nirvana reminds me. Nirvana takes me back to. It was in my 20s, and there were six of us that went to New Orleans for a week during 4th of July, and we drove over there, all six of us together, and just Nirvana and actually Bush, a couple of songs from Bush.
You see, I'm glad you mentioned Bush because
Uh-huh.
Bush was one of I would listen to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But now I don't listen to Bush anymore, like Glycerin and all those things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, I can't do it no more. Like, maybe back then I liked
Yeah.
Bush, but now it's like, I really don't want to listen to Bush anymore.
The only reason why Bush stands out to me is because one of the girls that were three couples, and one of the girls from the other couple had a crush on Gavin Rosdale. So I remember that she would play Bush a lot. And so, but other than that, it was just Nirvana, like Nirvana, just the MTV Unplugged one too, like that CD. That one was really, we played it a lot. And also, there was a couple of songs that reminded me of that time too, like "Good" from Better Than Ezra. Live, Lightning Crashes from Live. Yeah, that one. And so yeah, so those are the songs that remind me of my early 20s and being in your 20s and exploring and doing other things like your freedom, doing adult things and taking trips and things like that. So that's what Nirvana was a big one of mine though.
Yeah, see, with me, it was my 20s was different because my 20s, yes, we did go out, we did do stuff, but it was mainly working.
Yeah.
It was me and my wife just really hustling and working, and because we had to work off schedules.
Yeah.
So we had kids, so we would I would work. Usually, she would work the mornings. I work nights, something
Mhm.
like that. So we always make sure like we were home with the kids. We didn't really like babysitters, and we
Right.
really weren't able to get babysitters really. So we always make sure we were with the kids. But the music back then would be relatable. So like when I worked at when I say this because I was working in Houston again, um, and you traveled a lot, and my one
Right.
of my jobs was to travel to different stores in Houston, and then so it would take a lot of time.
Right.
Then one of my partners I was with because we had two guys we were with, he got me into Rage Against the Machine.
Oh yeah.
And I never heard about Rage Against the Machine. And he
I
told me, he goes,
forgot
"Hey, what
about
about
those
Rage?"
guys.
I'm
Yeah.
like, "What do you mean Rage?" Like that.
Love Rage.
And then once he hit me on that music, I'm like, "Oh my God, this is just so great." But
Mhm.
this brought me to a different type of grunge, but more of the rock grunge, more there because then he got you into a loop to other artists,
Yep. Mhm.
and then but now you listen to Rage Against the Machine. Now you most some of that stuff is still relatable,
Right.
like all the stuff they were talking about.
Mhm.
But does any of that come back to you more of the political of the music back in the 80s to 90s of
Um
all of them, like Public Enemy and so forth like that?
I was not into that kind of music. I mean, I think I wasn't listening to music for the message back then. So I liked Rage. Um, I couldn't tell you what their message was because again, it was more for me about the music. So
Yeah.
I really was not into all the political stance and all that stuff, but I liked the music. Like,
So, I mean,
yeah.
since coming from Houston, then what about NWA, Ice T, like their again, Public Enemy again about their messages? And was it more of just the music you're listening to, the beat and the
Yeah.
chorus and all that?
Yes, and I will tell you that yes, it was all about the music. There is so many times where I can tell you there was where I was listening to music that were politically driven or motivated. To this day, I will listen to the music before I ever understand what the words are. In fact, I with me with having two kids, there was a song where I liked this song and I liked kind of the draw and the beat. And my kids were at that age where they had little MP3 players and they were able to download or buy from Apple iTunes the song. And so until I realized it was talking about drugs, like big time drugs. And
Yes.
so I didn't realize that, and I had so that's yes. So to this day, I listen to more of the word, the sound, the music rather than the words.
One of my kids' songs that they liked growing up, and they would sing in the back seat all the time, and was "It Wasn't Me."
Oh yeah,
I saw
Shaggy.
her, yeah, Saggy. It wasn't me on the table. It wasn't me in the restroom. It wasn't me. Later, and my wife goes, "This is not a good song." I go, "This is okay. They're kids. They're not knowing what they're singing." Later, they come up, one of them at a time. You know what this song's about? And I'm like, yes. We know. You let us sing it. I'm like, y'all just sang the song. That was
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
So it was a wide open, like an eye
Your
opener when they
eye opening.
realized
Yes,
what exactly the message was.
right, right. And nowadays, it's for me now. It is hard to separate the artist from the music now that I'm a mom and I'm more conscientious about things. Like so yeah, so it's you live and learn, but yeah, sometimes it's still hard for me to separate the words from the music. But yeah.
Now, so what are three songs, or actually, name me one group, just one group from the grunge era that would uh, that would defined the grunge era for you?
Oh, I mean, it again. It has to be Nirvana. Nirvana was huge for me. Like Nirvana was huge, huge, huge.
Now, but I'm talking about the whole '90s because that was more like the early '90s, late
Yeah.
'80s, early '90s with that
Um,
because we still had '95, '98s. They're still, and then they start going off to different type of
I
music.
don't know. I couldn't. I don't think I could tell you. What was yours?
For me, it would have to be Soundgarden or Audio Slave, whatever it was. Like they're the same group, I think, isn't it?
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah. The same
same
people.
artist, same
Same.
group.
Chris Cornell. Yeah, was in both of those.
Yeah. So I was a big fan of Chris Cornell's. Um, but I think was it Audio Slave is when Rage Against Machine band members
Yes.
went over there,
Yes.
and now they're
Tom
back with Rage.
Morello. Tom Morello. Yeah.
Yeah, and now they're back with Rage because Chris Cornell, of course, passed
Yeah.
away. Them and of course Pearl Jam, but Pearl Jam was late '80s to early '90s. At mid '90s, Pearl Jam kind of fell off, but now it's nostalgic, so a lot of
Well,
people
I
listen to
mean,
them.
so I guess it went from Nirvana to STP, and then later, I think the ones that are stood out for me were again Nirvana, STP, and then the Foo Fighters. But the Foo Fighters were, not
More
late
mainstream.
mainstream, yeah, but yeah, because it has, of course, the drummer from Nirvana.
Hmm.
But yeah, that I didn't delve into a whole lot of grunge after Nirvana, STP. There was just a few that I would listen to, but not a whole lot.
So to this day, what is your go-to music then?
I don't I don't have go to music because I love, like, I have all kinds of music and it makes me feel a certain way and takes me back to certain places. But I guess if I start, it just depends on my mood. Like it really did. Like if I want to be like, I don't know.
Yeah, because when we go to your house for some events,
Yeah,
your music is all over the place sometimes.
it is.
I'm like, whoa, what happened here?
Yeah, like
Like
it
we're a
is.
country, then we went to grunge, then we went to freestyle, then went to the,
The Manhattans,
I'm like, what the heck?
yeah,
Sweet Caroline, what the hell?
yeah,
You threw that one
like
in there?
I'm all over the place. Luther Vandross, the
Oh
Manhattans,
my
the
God, Luther.
Temptations, the Commodores, then Neil Diamond,
Neil Diamond, man.
Neil
That was like
Diamond,
early '80s, right?
uh-huh,
I actually
and
heard Neil Diamond the other day too.
yes, Neil Diamond, then what's the gambler's name? What's his name?
Kenny Rogers.
Kenny Rogers. Then 38 Special, um, gosh, CCR. It's everywhere. Then Jodeci and Pretty Ricky and Keith Sweat.
And you see the difference right now is like all the artists you're saying, there's
Yeah,
all types of genres out
yeah,
there.
yeah,
But there's a lot of people that either just listen to all R&B hip hop
yeah,
or they
yes.
listen to nothing but just country.
And I'm not that person.
And it's weird to hear people like that. And I'm like, oh, I listen to whatever. And then we put some music. Oh, I never heard that before. I
Yeah,
never heard that before. Then what do you listen to? Because if you just go strictly to that,
yes,
then you're losing all this influence, all this
yes,
music that's out there. And like, of course, Spanish people listen to Spanish,
yes,
which, we're in America. I'm
yes,
American. We listen. My heritage is Hispanic. So, but I still listen to Spanish music.
yes,
But
I
one of
do
my
too.
go-tos is country.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
when I'm working, I go to rock a lot.
No, and you're absolutely right. Like my mom loved Gloria Estefan, her Spanish stuff, so I listened to all that. Vicente Fernandez, Ana Gabriel, like all that stuff. All the other cumbias songs I've listened to when I go to quinceañeras, like all those songs, like those are part of my history too. I just, you know, all that I have in my playlist. Like it's everything, 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 everything. I don't. It's hard for me to even put them in. I mean, I can put them in music genre categories, but I don't. I don't know. Like I go to. I would say if I had to like something that I want to hear or sing or whatever, I honestly it'd have to depend on the mood. It really would.
One of the things with listening to so much music is you get tired of all the music.
Yeah.
You listen to all the country, you listen to all the Spanish, you listen to all the rock and so forth, and the different types of rock. But then you know what I do? I have to reset myself.
Mhm.
because I listen to all these music.
Yeah.
So, and I have to wait for artists to come create new ones.
Mhm.
So I have a reset, and my reset go to is, which might be a little sentimental to you, is Adele.
Mhm.
When I listen to Adele, I have to listen to Adele to reset myself to go back to all the music again. And my wife goes, "You're weird that you have to go pick Adele." I'm like, "Yeah, it's Adele." Like I go back, and then I could go back, and then artists will start making new songs, and then I'll go back and start listening to all the new stuff again.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for me to listen to a lot of old music, even with my grunge era. I listen to that, because I need more of the new music
Yeah.
more than other. Because like my father just listened to nothing but 70s.
Yeah.
Everything he puts on, I could name all the artists, all the songs. It's
70s.
70s. It's and for me, where I was raised in the 70s, I mean, born in the 70s, raised in the 80s, you would think I would do more of that, but I don't. It has to be more of the current
The
music.
current music.
Yeah.
And in my playlist, I do have a lot of the '70s stuff. I have Hall and Oates, and I have the stuff that I remember that were playing in the background when I was growing up. Like I said, Kenny Rogers, Hall and Oates. Gosh, different, just a lot of different genres. But yeah, I don't. For me, it really, really does. Um, I love R&B, and I love new wave, and I love alternative. So it just really, really depends on my mood and what do I feel like. If I want to feel like, do I want to hear bass? Then I'll turn something with bass on. Do I want to sing? What it is. I really don't have a cleansing thing or a cleansing, genre of music. I just, whatever
Yeah.
it is I want to hear, I put on. Now, where I do get more new music influences is from my daughter, because my daughter's 22 and she listens to some of my music. And then she has, of course, new music that she listens to. So whenever I'm in the car with her, whatever she's playing, I'll say, "Hey, who's this?" or "Who sings this?" And then
Yes.
I'll download it or I'll add it to my playlist on Spotify or whatever. So yeah, that's how I'm getting new music. There'll be times where I'll, like you said, maybe you're tired of listening to your own playlist. I'll go somewhere on Spotify and listen to, the new alternative music and things like that, and see what if something interests me. But other than that, new music is I just get it from other people. Other people, I get new music from other people.
All right. I think we're at the end now.
Yep.
We still got more to go.
Yep.
So we might do a part 3 to this.
Yeah.
So again, if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do that right now. Like and share this video. And if you have any comments about any favorite artists, movies you like, put them in the comments as well. So I'm James.
I'm Sandra.
Bye.
Bye.